Oi, what's the best game where you get to eat pie? What's the best game where you play a dead guy? You'll find out in VG247's podcast. Here, what's the best game where you swing from a rope? And what's the best game where you batter the Pope? Like I said, you will find out in this here podcast.
Hello and welcome to VG247's Best Games Ever podcast, where we attempt to find the best game within a very specific category that we've dreamt up. But we didn't really dream up this week's because, of course, this week we're looking for the best game that reminds you of Christmas. A really wholesome topic, so we're not going to do anything mean. And of course, what most of us associate with Christmas is togetherness, sharing your table with friends and family. So in that spirit, we've invited a number of special guests onto the show this week to celebrate with us. We have a number of pre-recorded pitches for this topic from a bunch of the games industry's best and brightest. It's a very low bar to clear. And I haven't listened to them because I want to experience the magic in real time, along with editor-in-chief Tom Orry.
Hello, it's good. It's a good Christmas special, this one.
Yeah, it's like we've.
Did we have a Christmas jingle or not at the beginning?
No.
No. Okay, good.
No, I haven't got the time, Tom.
Never mind.
I might fade in some jingle bells over the existing
just
jingle.
like E17 did with their song. Just throw in some like Christmas chimes, and you're done. Christmas song. Then.
We'll just do that.
That is all that's required.
They'll be massively out of time, but I think that'll be funny. Okay, associate editor Alex Donaldson, who you just heard there.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
And guides editor James Bilcliffe, who
glad to be here.
Yeah. We're glad you're here as well, especially after you successfully changed how this podcast is played.
Yeah, it's the first time I've been on, but I feel like I've got some explaining to do.
You've definitely, there's definitely been a Bilcliffe-shaped shadow over the previous few episodes which you haven't been on.
Yeah, and I do listen to all of the episodes, and it is extremely weird to have a podcast about you on the internet. I'll tell you that as much.
And it was, I would say it was, you were largely responsible for Connor's win last week, because you have influenced how everyone else plays the game. Well, not everyone, because Donaldson is still just playing the game as Donaldson because, he was already winning. So, but everyone else has sort of gone, better start putting together some very harrowing stories, because apparently that's what Jim likes to hear. And we are also joined, we should be joined by pro wrestler and unstoppable content machine, Simon Miller, who hasn't logged in yet. But
he's meant to be actually on this. He's not just given us a choice and pissing off like the others. He's actually coming on.
Yeah, he is logging in eventually. He's a busy guy. Have you actually texted him, Tom?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay,
it's all fine.
Okay, so the best game that reminds you of Christmas, and I first want to go to James, because James's choice is a personal favourite of mine. I'm not sure how Christmassy it is.
How did he know?
How
did he know this?
Yeah, I think I want to address the reputation straight off. I think if you think back to when I wrote in the podcast, that I said that, because if you think back, Tom told that enchanting story about ignoring his own family in the street. And what I actually said was that I was ignoring my family too. And I don't actually workshop my choices. It was that my wife was trying to get me to workshop the choices and I was ignoring her. So I feel like even though I have ruined the podcast by making it a hyper-competitive metagame, I didn't even try.
This is blown my mind. What? So it's all been a fiction, the whole thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's
what?
So it's your wife's fault, is what you're saying?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So yeah, you can make the podcast about her and not me instead. So to slam this podcast back onto the rails, I'll talk about a game that actually for me is extremely Christmassy and absolutely viscerally reminds me of Christmas and that time of the year when the evenings get really dark and you're walking around at 3 p.m. with the lamps on and all of that sort of stuff, and it's cold.
What?
Do you not have table lamps? Do you carry
walk
around with a big light on when it's dark?
Carrying around a little torch around like bloody
was feeling really cozy then until you
Victorian
interrupted
times.
Tom. Let him finish.
Yeah, exactly. You walk around with a big light on when it's dark.
I do, yeah. The big light is always on when it's dark, because otherwise it's dark.
Too bright. Anyway, so yeah, I decided to eschew all of the monkey business, none of the funny stuff. I've just come to play with a great game that really, really reminds me of Christmas, because I was one of those kids that was never allowed 18 rated games when I was a kid. So I have no particular affection for like Grand Theft Auto, because I never played it, wasn't allowed, all of that sort of stuff. And but I was really into games all the same, and I'd gotten a PS3 at launch, and one of the best launch games to PS3 was obviously the greatest game of all time, The Elder Scrolls Oblivion.
Oh my god!
So I was obviously really excited when. So I was obviously really excited when the next kind of Bethesda game came out, and that was my choice for today, Fallout 3.
Right.
Lovely.
I think you've blown it. I think you should have just pretended it was Oblivion.
I really like Fallout 3, and it's a good choice, and I've got a good case. But save Oblivion for later. Save the big guns. Is all I'm saying. Anyway.
Yeah.
But obviously, Fallout 3 came out. I was extremely excited, but it was an absolute disaster because it's an 18 rated game. I'm not allowed it. It came out when I was about like 14, 15 or whatever. And so the months leading up to, I think it came out in October. And then the months leading up to Christmas just became a months long crusade to convince my dad to let me have Fallout 3 for Christmas. And I was watching Let's Plays, but only like the first hour or so because I didn't want to spoil it for myself. I was so excited. I wanted a little taste of the world, but I didn't want to ruin it. And I was researching the PEGI rating, the BBFC, all of that stuff. Why is this an 18? Or how can I convince my dad to let me have this? And I eventually said, because I think it said something like extreme violence, and I think, yeah. So I managed to eventually convince my dad that the only reason that it was an 18 was that you could eat people with a cannibal perk, and for some reason that was okay.
That was it. That's all he needed. To be convinced.
I'm just looking it up. Violence may be strong, but may not dwell on the infliction of pain or injury. In Fallout 3, however, players are encouraged to use a targeting system that allows them to pause the action. It's all about VATs. It's all about VATs.
Right, I didn't know that. I thought when I was thinking about it, when I'd chosen it, I was thinking it was probably because you could get addicted to drugs and injectables and stuff like that. But maybe it is about popping heads. But
it's a very violent game, right?
Yeah, it is a violent game. Yeah.
But yeah, so in the run up to Christmas, I remember watching these Let's Plays and trying to convince my dad. And then it's one of those moments that I can really vividly remember opening it on Christmas and then just digging straight into it and loving all of the great side quests in the world, with the talking tree, working out which guy was the android on the boat city and all of that stuff. And obviously, the elephant in the room, like you said, is that Oblivion is a brilliant game, and New Vegas is probably the better kind of storytelling game in terms of its main quest. But I feel like Fallout 3 really had such an incredible sense of place and setting in that like Washington DC capital wasteland thing, with all of the landmarks and Three Dog on the radio, just that kind of iconic performance that everybody remembers, and all of the Easter eggs where you could find and meet the characters from the radio plays that you were listening to while you were just going around and discovering all of this stuff. And it's one of my favorite games. It really reminds me of, as I say, every single year when the nights start to get dark and everything starts to, the tree lights are twinkling and all of that sort of stuff. It just reminds me of exploring this amazing open world. And it was one of my first experiences with that kind of genre, after getting really into it with Oblivion, and I just love it.
Good,
wonderful.
Yeah. Good choice.
Yeah, it's made me feel very old once again.
I saw this at Gamescom.
Yeah,
saw it pre-release in Gamescom, so I was not 14.
I definitely already had one child when Fallout 3 came out. But it's such a wonderful game. And you know what? I think you mentioned New Vegas, which has kind of overshadowed it since, because it's a lot of, it is like, for a lot of people, it is like, well, it's the better game. But actually, I'm not sure it is. I think it does a lot of different, and you can argue more interesting things with the branching quests and everything like that. But I think Fallout 3's just got a much more interesting world. And it's the hook at the start with, like, Liam Neeson's your dad, and you go looking for him, and like it's just got a tighter main quest, and there are a lot of things about it that are just way more memorable, like that opening in the vault where you live your life in the vault with you start off as a baby, and then you have that birthday party, and you get the sweet roll gag from Morrowind and all that. Like the Fallout 3 is so much more iconic than New Vegas, as good as New Vegas is. I don't really subscribe to the idea that it's better. I think it's just the Suits game.
Was this the first violent game you ever played then?
No, I think you're all very lucky that I chose Fallout 3.
There were more lies before this.
No, you're very lucky that I chose Fallout 3, because I also have legitimate access in this category to Shadow the Hedgehog, which is also
That's a
an ultra-violent...
Oh, come off it.
He's murdering people left, right, and centre in that game.
Genre.
Yeah.
What
He's got guns.
What rating
people.
was that? It can't have been more than a 12, surely.
It was a 12. I think it was probably one of
You're going to school, like bigging up to your mates. You got this new violent video game. It's like Shadow the Hedgehog.
You know what? I do love how much more responsible your parents sound than mine, because I was allowed to. Well, they couldn't really stop me from playing Grand Theft Auto, is the thing, because I think I just like. I don't even know how I came across it. I think I might have just ended up with a copy.
My nan bought me Grand Theft Auto.
But
my granddad bought me mine. Big PC box. And my mum refused to buy it for me. And then I tricked my granddad, who didn't really look at the ratings, to go to PC World and buy it for me.
I got my copy of Grand Theft Auto on PC in a pack that also had the Wipe It 2097 version, a PC version in it, and something else. It was like a 3-pack of, I think that's how it slipped by, actually. But my dad used to stand behind me when I was playing the original Grand Theft Auto and tut. I'd get the Garanga, and he'd be like, "Oh, Jamie, for goodness sake," and then he'd walk off.
Garanga, and the noise that the chant that those guys used to make is like burned into my brain.
Yeah. So it was
I had a mate at school. We're talking about like Bill Cliff's kind of harsh upbringing when he wasn't allowed to play the games he wanted. But I had a friend who, his parents, they watched all films before he was allowed to watch them. And if it was something that had, even if it was like a PG or whatever, they would record it onto, they had a setup. So they had a VHS setup and then another machine next to it that they could record onto. So they'd record the film again, and they'd stop it at all the points that they thought the kid he couldn't see. So we went around there numerous times, be watching these films, and they were all like the edited versions of these films. It was bizarre. But
that's insane.
It's just
That's some Mormon Latter-day Saint stuff right there.
Yes. I mean, maybe that is what proper parenting is about. But I mean,
but being a Mormon.
Well,
so we can't go to Simon Miller yet because he still hasn't turned up. But we have from Ian Dransfield. This is Ian Dransfield's favourite Christmas
former Games Journal.
Former Games Journal, Ian Dransfield, who has a mildly successful YouTube channel, and you definitely don't know who he is, but he's one of our mates.
I would have loved to have been the starring attraction in this special edition podcast, were it not for the fact that it was staffed almost entirely by people who do not know what acronyms are. So I'll pass. Thanks.
Wow.
Right. So that's,
right. Okay.
Is that it?
You think you should have maybe listened to these first now?
Well, that's not quite what I asked for, but thanks, Ian. Okay, what about Tamoor Hussain from GameSpot?
Jim, I don't know how many times I have to tell you this. I do not want to be on the VG247 podcast. Stop asking me.
Right. Okay.
He's got a big name as well.
That's it's not quite in the Christmas spirit, Tam, but fine.
You probably would have picked Elden Ring anyway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Or a Batman game for some reason.
I'm okay. I'm not too cut up about that, but I think two people doing the exact same gag is a bit harsh. I feel slightly bullied
in a row as well.
Yeah. And what about Gav Murphy? I mean, he's on regular features. He's probably, I mean, if anything, probably the best possible guest you could have for this show. So,
Hiya Jim, you alright buddy? Yeah, Gav here, sorry, I just saw your text now. Mate, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to be able to do the podcast. Hang on 2 seconds. Yeah, can I get 2 pints of Guinness, please? Cheers, fella, thank you. Yeah, sorry man, I'd love to do the video gamer podcast for you, but I just got too much on, mate, to be honest. Yeah, well, Merry Christmas and Nadolig Llawen, you know? Good luck with everything and that. Hope the podcast goes well and that. Yeah, see you soon.
So, all right, well, let's move on. Alex, what have you got for us?
I've got a game with Christmas in the title, which makes it pretty obvious, I think, to some degree. Yeah, for me, it's Christmas nights. The funny thing is, I'm not the hugest fan of actual nights into dreams, but I have a huge affinity for Christmas nights, just because of the nature of it. So, for people who don't know, this was almost like a standalone expansion pack they released for Nights into Dreams on the Sega Saturn. Depending on what region you're in, the setup with how it was released was different. So, like in Japan, it was released into stores. In America, it was given away for free and then sold. And also like a bundle in Europe. It was in... I only learned this because I was like, how did I get this? It was part of... You could get it from buying the Sega Saturn magazine, which at the time I just learned was edited by one Rich Ledbetter, who of course is one of our colleagues over at Digital Boundary.
Cool.
And it was also like if you bought certain console bundles or you purchased 2 games from select stores, you got a copy of Christmas Nights. But the thing that was special about Christmas Nights to me in particular was that it had this Sonic into Dreams mode where basically it was the first or one of the first places you could play as Sonic the Hedgehog in a 3D environment. And this was obviously several years before Sonic Adventure came out. And it was sort of like you would look at, and this came out the same year as Mario 64. So it was like, look, they are going to do, Sonic is going to be just as good as Mario 64, which obviously didn't come to pass. But Sonic into Dreams was like this wonderful dream at the time. And I remember not actually having this because I didn't have a Saturn. We couldn't afford a Saturn. But I had a friend who had a Saturn. And they'd obviously bought the correct bundle or whatever. And so they had Christmas Nights. And so I very specifically remember like a Christmas sleepover that was probably, the week before Christmas or something like that, where all we basically did was play Christmas Nights and play the Sonic thing and talk about what the 3D Sonic game was going to be like on Sega's next machine and all the rest. And to me, it's just, I absolutely associate it with that night, which was at Christmas time. The fact the game is about Christmas. Actually, the interesting thing about Christmas Nights is it's not just about Christmas. So the game uses the Saturn's real-time clock. So if you boot it on New Year, it's actually New Year's nights. And if you boot it on April Fool's, something happens.
Bit misleading then, really, isn't it?
And if you play it on... But the core of the game is Christmas. And if you play it on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, Santa's flying around the level and there's a boss battle that becomes Christmas themed. And they changed the ending music to be like Christmas sort of themed. It's just a little slice of Christmas.
I feel like you're welling up a little thinking about it.
It's sort of
believe all this nonsense. Come off it.
It's sort of because the thing is, like I say, I'm not the biggest fan of nights.
Yeah,
but I just feel like this is a wonderful little slice of, and it's something that games don't really do anymore because this was something Sega was into at the time. So I very nearly picked, directly connected to this game, I very nearly picked Sonic Adventure because the first Sonic Adventure had DLC that you would download over 56k that added Christmas stuff to like the first 2 levels of the game. So it put Christmas trees in and stuff like that. And it's one of those things. It's amazing to think about it. But that was in 1999. That's limited incredible. DLC that was only available for 1 week. If you didn't download it and get it onto your VMU memory card in that 1 week, it was gone forever.
That's incredible.
Which is pretty cool. But Sega was into this sort of stuff at the time, basically, is what I'm getting at. And I guess that Christmas DLC was sort of a natural extension of what they did with Christmas nights. But I just, 100%, I just associate it with Christmas and being a kid and being off school and being able to go for a sleepover on a weeknight because there was no school the following day.
Amazing, yeah.
And so it's Christmas nights.
I could have picked, I could have had, I have almost the same story, right, as Alex. My cousin had a Saturn. I didn't have a Saturn as a kid. I was like PlayStation all the way at that point, even though I almost bought a Saturn. And he had a Saturn. He had the special controller they released alongside Knights with the analog stick thing. The reason I didn't pick it is that Knights is a bullshit game, and it's terrible.
Yeah, so, but that's not what this is about, Tom, is it? But Knights is, but like, I quite like that. It's kind of like the Canon Soccer game, which I think was a Christmas cover disc on like Amiga format or something, and it was the cannon fodder guys invading the sensible soccer pitch, but it was like it was meant to be at Christmas time because it was referencing the infamous football game in the trenches between the two sides. So that's a similar one. I also quite like I said this to James the other day. I remember getting Simpsons Hit and Run for Christmas and booting it up on Christmas morning, and the title screen has Homer sleeping on the couch in that game. I don't know if you remember, but if you boot it up on Christmas Day, Homer's dressed as Santa, and it's just it only happens on the 25th of December, which is just quite a magical memory. The game has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas otherwise, but like I love stuff like that that's tied to the seasons, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla's DLC. But we're going to hear from someone else other than me now because I've gone on for long enough. All right, what about who is a nice person, Louise Blaine, who is presenter of BBC Radio 3's monthly Sound of Gaming.
Hey, Jim. I just wanted to say that when you were asking if I was free for a podcast, I didn't realise you meant it was for VG247, and I've got too much on. I've just got too much on.
Okay.
I think we might have an idea where this is going.
I think there's a theme here, isn't there?
BBC is very busy.
Have these people all colluded? Right, okay. Well, look, people have been waiting for us to get Chris Bratt onto the podcast.
Has he actually done it? He's done it well.
Yeah. So, so this is Chris Bratt's VG247 podcast debut.
Stop asking me to be on your bloody podcast. How many times do I have to tell you? I don't want to.
This is classic. He's so ungrateful.
He should not try acting for a career, shouldn't he?
What are you talking about? That's not acting.
That's the fakest sounding phone angle I've ever had in my life.
Okay. Let's move on then.
We've got me and Miller still to go when Miller turns up. So
that's right. Is he actually going to turn up? Has he responded to?
He is.
Okay, all right. This is going very badly.
So mine is it's a story attached to this, obviously, because this is what we do now. I can't remember the year exactly, but I got really into playing Football Manager after years of not playing it for ages. I put it on my office PC in my previous life, and I used to play at lunchtimes because, like, what else was I going to do, right? So I used to play at lunch. I'd eat at the desk, right? Because that's the kind of animal I am. But I'd eat at the desk playing Football Manager, and I got well into it that year. So Christmas rolled around, I was off work, had it on my laptop, and I was like, just all free time playing Football Manager, which I had a this is before we had kids, so I had quite a lot of free time, right? And I just sit with the laptop of an evening watching whatever TV was on, and then also playing Football Manager. And it rolled around to Christmas. Me and my wife went to stay at her mum's. So we were sat there. It was like Christmas Eve, I want to say, like around then. And I was sat there. I think the song like Call the Midwife was on. It's like super Christmas, awful TV. Like, I don't want to watch Call the Midwife. And it was like the Coronation Street quadruple bill, whatever they put on that no one wants to watch. I was like, I'm playing Football Manager. I just sat there completely silently on the laptop, and just getting on with it, basically. My mother-in-law already thought that I was like the least conversational person in the world in terms of like had she upset me or something, but I just don't talk that much generally. So I was just sat there with a laptop playing Football Manager, and I was going really well, right? I was in the Champions League final as Spurs, because I always play as Spurs, because once I'm not Spurs, I lose interest. Like, I've gone off to be like manager for England or whatever, and it's like, I don't care anymore. I just want to be playing as Spurs for 40 years, however long you're allowed to. So Spurs Champions League final is like, great, I was going to win, etc. And then it was like very near the end, and I was like super like, when you get into it, you're massively sort of in the world, right? With Football Manager, you don't know what's going on. I've had times where I think I've confused my Football Manager save with the real life Spurs, and like not realised that we don't actually have a good squad of players back when we didn't. So I was winning one. I was winning as we entered like injury time, right, against Barcelona, and I was like, it was like everyone was just watching the TV. I was there, and then they scored. They scored in injury time, and I shouted out, "Fucking shit!" Isn't in the living room, right? On Christmas Eve, and like Call the Midwife was on, and they'd just like had a lovely moment, probably with like all these babies in the newborn area or whatever. Fucking shit. And I said, for fuck's sake, fucker. I had all these swear words, right? And then the setup of the room is that like I was sat over to the side, but the chair that my mother-in-law sat on was like towards the front, an individual like armchair. And she just turned her head around slowly and said like, "Are you okay, Tom?" I was like, "Yes, Neymar's just scored in the Champions League final." And she was like, "Oh." That was it. She never said anything else. It was just, and that was Christmas Eve.
Another heartwarming story about ignoring your family.
I mean, I am a very good,
talk about themes.
I'm a very good husband and father, and I don't ignore them, but at times it does come across like I do. But this is just Football Manager. Like, I'll always remember whatever Christmas that was. I don't know the actual Christmas, but that moment of, it was all Christmas, and we had all the boxes of celebrations and heroes out and mince pies and stuff. And then I was just playing Football Manager, and it went horribly wrong. I lost that final in the end. It just couldn't. It was just too much. When they equalise in like the injury time, you're done then, aren't you? You just lost. The morale's gone. It's over.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
A lovely story about how miserable it ruined your Christmas. Yeah, brilliant game.
It's like real football. It can really affect your mood when the people you have no actual say over, really, because they're completely different. Like, you can't affect them. Like for a manager, it's just not real. But real football, like getting a right miserable mood when Spurs lose, which happens too often.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually banned from watching Leeds now, because towards the end of last season, when it was going extremely badly, like I was just bereft all day, every day. It was awful. So I'm not allowed anymore.
Thankfully, in American football, which is my poison, the Rams are shit now, despite winning the Super Bowl last year or this year. So, but when we first started going downhill this year, I woke my partner, the dog, and the baby all up because I didn't shout, because obviously those games are late at night, so it was like 2:30, 3 in the morning. But I kicked the coffee table in a way that I thought was light, and it wasn't very light, and the glass skidded off it and smashed on the floor.
Touchdown.
Yeah.
Lovely. Sharing a lot of stories about upsetting our families here. Right. So let's go over to Mike Channel from Outside Xbox, who has sent us. Well, this is quite a long recording, right? So I've got a good feeling about this one, that it might actually be a game pitch and not mugging me off for so-called comedy.
Right, guys, it's Mike from Outside Xbox. Look, I'd love to do the VG274 podcast, but I'm afraid we really can't move on the 15k an hour plus expenses figures. So, let me know if you can match that, and if so, happy days. Oh, but don't put me on a fucking 4-star again, all right? Anyway, I've got to go have lunch with Cox, something about rehabilitating his image after killing tens of thousands of people or something. I don't know. Anyway, love you lots. Ciao, ciao.
Wow.
That is lower than their normal appearance fee, to be fair.
Well, that's the discount because we're all part of the same network, aren't we? That's the Reed Pop YouTube money in action.
Exactly. Did you not sign off that purchase order, Tom? This is your fault.
I mean, it's a bit much.
Right. So, well, I'm going to have to try and salvage this by going to my friends.
The people we've never heard of.
So, yeah. Well, look, no, you definitely have. Richie Morgan from Game Wank.
Told you, we can't keep mentioning Game Wank.
You want me to be on what? Fuck off, mate.
Brief.
Right.
To the point.
Thanks, Richie.
Hello.
Thanks for that. I've only got one left, and that's Owen O'Donnell from the Infinite Review, which is actually quite a moderately successful YouTube channel. He's going to love that. Moderately successful YouTube channel. It's like describing someone as your current partner. Right, okay. Okay, well, this is what Owen has to say for himself.
Oh, Jim, of course I'll be a special guest. I mean, you don't even need to ask. When you're recording a new Game Wank, I'm there, you know? Oh, sorry, I just read the message a bit more closely. VG247. No.
Wow. It's a humbling way to end the year.
And there's no Simon Miller to cut to.
He's not here,
So,
is he?
No. Simon Miller didn't show up. Like a bald Santa Claus, he has failed to
I
appear.
feel like people are going to think we've deliberately said that he's coming and we knew he wasn't, but we did think he was coming.
We did actually think he was coming.
I mean,
Yeah, not
actually,
a bit.
You may have you may have worked out that we knew that some of these messages were going to be what they were, but Miller was actually coming on to be like, we've tricked you, but here's Miller.
Yeah, but sadly it wasn't to be. So quite upset about that actually, because I miss working with Miller. It would have been nice to get the band back together. So never mind. Right. Well, on that note, we hope you have a nice Christmas.
We've got to pick the winner yet, Jim.
Yeah, you've got to do the thing,
oh,
Jim.
shit, yeah.
Actual job.
Oh, yeah. Christ, I forgot. I mean, I was so dejected that I've lost my train of thought a little bit just thinking about how badly this has all gone. But, so, okay, we're going to play that jingle that Tom hates now. Right. Okay. So, I loved everyone's story. It might have to come down to whether or not the games are any good. And I think, Alex, as much as I really enjoyed your story, trying to slip a fucking Sega Saturn cover disc bias as one of the best games is maybe a bit of a stretch. So, although having said that, as Bill Cliff himself has pointed out, he's one with some absolute dog shit. So, it wasn't the worst Gambit imaginable. But no, Tom, I really, really enjoyed the story about how you upset your mother-in-law. But Football Manager's just not that good a game.
What?
And well, it's not, is it? It's just fucking spreadsheets for dweebs. It's basically EVE Online, but without graphics.
It has fully 3D patches now, Jim.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize because I don't keep up with the world of Football Manager because I'm not a fucking saddle. James, I really enjoyed the quite heartwarming story about a wee boy trying sort of doing a bit of research to try and find some angle to get this 18 rated game past his dad, and then succeeding. But as it turns out, with you probably wouldn't have needed to. I imagine you probably would have been able to go to him and be like, no, it's just because you can if you want to target limbs, and I just won't do that. I don't know. No, I really like that story. And Fallout 3 is just an undisputed banger, isn't it? I mean, let's face it. I'm not just picking it because it's a Bethesda game. People don't have to look at me like I've done something bad. It is genuinely an all-timer. I think everyone will agree. But yeah, so I'm going to give it to... so Fallout 3 is the best game that reminds us of Christmas. That's going in. And James has once again won, which is astonishing, really. I tell you what, we've recorded 3 podcasts. I'm going to let people into the magic of the show now, right? We've recorded 3 podcasts today. It's nowhere near Christmas, really.
I don't know. It's fucking next week, man.
Oh, shit, it is, isn't it? All right, it is quite close to Christmas. Oh, God, I've got to do all this before. Anyway, right, so we've recorded 3 podcasts this morning, and Alex has won 1, and Connor has won 1, and now James has won 1, but Tom Ori hasn't. And I think that is the real spirit of Christmas.
I think I realised that I say this a lot, but I think I was actually robbed. With this podcast in particular, it was... I feel like, and this, I'm pretty sure I'll get messages. I'll share them with you on the Slack.
Yeah, I think that will definitely happen, but I only think it'll happen because you have created a climate where people think it's a funny meme to complain about you being robbed on the podcast, so none of it counts anymore.
That is entirely why I do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm all about the end game of selling T-shirts.
But I think this is we should celebrate as well, because this is the first time that James has won with a good game.
I take issue with that. I take issue with that.
You might, but it's true.
Because I have one with with a couple of questionable releases. Brotherhood of the Blade, I'll accept that. RuneScape, I'll also accept that. Sly 2 is a 10 out of 10 game, and I won't hear a different.
Wow. You got quite angry then.
I don't know what to say to that. Yeah, all right, yeah, okay. You know what? Sly 2 is it's not a bad game by any means, but it's not that good, is it? It's all right. It's like furry fucking Mario 64. Listen, let's not get bogged down in whether or not Sly 2 is any good, because that was a really worthy winner. And thanks very much for listening. And thanks very much for listening throughout the year. It's been great. It's been lovely doing this podcast, and we're going to continue doing it, because next week we've got the best games of 2023, which is a very good one. I know how that ends because we've already done it.
You just revealed the winner a minute ago.
Did I?
50-50.
Well, find out who won that one then. All right, okay. I will let everyone go now, and I'll speak to you later.
Happy Christmas.
Bye then. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Whatever. Enjoy yourself. Get drunk or don't, your choice.
Yeah. You know what? Merry Christmas to everyone except Simon Miller. There we go.
Like I said, you will find out in this here podcast.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. It really helps us get the word out. We're not just a podcast, of course. If you'd like to hear more from the team, then check out VG247.com for our fantastic news coverage, features, reviews, and game guides. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
It's Simon Miller here. I'm so pumped to be on the VG247 Best Games Ever podcast. Tom, you're the man. Jim, you're the man. I love you both. I don't really know where you are right now. It's a bit strange. You told me to come in the studio. You said you'd be here, and now everyone has left. So it's a little bit strange, a little bit like when I was a kid again. Mum, Dad, where have you gone? Please don't leave me alone. But I do think that this year has been great for games. No one's coming back, are they? All right. Well, there you go. Merry Christmas.